Thank you, Friendship and Shalom. It's great to be here once again, and I will remind you that because of Canada's new anti-spam laws, I will not be able to continue to send out emails unless you respond to the one you were sent telling me that it's okay to continue to send to you. Now, we'll still be on the web, on our webpage, and you can click on that like RSS thing or whatever that is, and my understanding is you'll then be notified when something gets posted. But unless you respond to the email that you've been sent, I can't continue to send out emails. But I do hope you will continue to enjoy the show. As Neil Young's immortal Old Man goes, I've been first and I've been last. Look at how the time goes past. But I'm all alone at last, rolling home to you. This week we will see people who were first and last. And we will also see that a lot of time will have actually passed. And speaking of rolling, I see that the handwritten lyrics to Like a Rolling Stone just sold for $2 million. Wow. But in the meantime, I hope you all had a great week, and I see from comments that several of you noticed my dog Cassie joined us last week for the show. And it's always great to have them here joining in. In addition, they often sit in when I occasionally record with a local band, and you can always tell in the tapes when they're there. They sing far better than I. And I'm pleased to say that that band is going to provide a bunch of their songs for the webpage and the show, because there's nothing like adding music to life. And thank you, Stephen, for telling me that you still enjoy the show and get a kick out of the headphones and Keepa combination. Now, I hope you all had great solstice time. And of course, solstices and equinoxes the world over are celebrated and pretty well always involved some kind of sacrifice. Not the kind our parents might have made, although perhaps they might think now that they should have. And some of you were asking about sacrifices and what happened to the sacrifice. It was a dominant part of early Judaism, but is so foreign to us now, especially since most sacrifices involved animals. And since the destruction of the Second Temple, there have been no sacrifices in Judaism. Now, God didn't eat the sacrifice. It was for the priests, and depending on the sacrifice, for the person who brought it. And for the longest time, that was the only way people had meat with a meal. It was the smell, the aroma, the scent that went to God. And unlike in many other religions where the gods were seen to eat of the sacrifice, the monotheistic God of the Hebrews did not. And that, friends, is one of the reasons that the incense had to be offered by the holy ones. There could be no tainting of the aroma or the process, as we saw last week, and as we saw with the deaths of Aaron's sons earlier. And the thought of God eating the sacrifice, well, that would simply be alien to our beliefs. Friends, we saw that the book of names, or Exodus, jumped ahead 400 years. And in this Parsha, we've just jumped ahead 30 years to year 40 of the wandering. This, my friends, is chukat, law. And in this Parsha, we see that the law wasn't just handed down. It is ever evolving. This is a Parsha built around bookends. It opens and closes with bookends of mystery, of Kabbalistic pieces of mysticism, opening with the sacrifice of the red heifer, para aduma. And it takes us on a journey that sees the death of Miriam, the crime of Moses at Meribah, the death of Aaron, and closing with the somewhat puzzling, mysterious bronze serpent that Moses is instructed to make, which miraculously heals the afflicted. This Parsha is the story of transition, of the transfer of leadership. It is the story of the passing of the mantle of leadership, of church and of state. The opening with the red heifer is the first time Eliezer is told to prepare the sacrifice. And its ashes were needed for purification, for very specific purification, mind you. Now there is a Mishnah in Tractate Para, which means cow, which explains the procedures, but for which there is no rabbinic analysis or comments for explaining its choice. Suffice it to say, a red heifer is truly unique. And this parsha contains another type of bookend, bookends of transition, transitions by death. It begins with the death of Miriam and ends with the death of Aaron. Quietly, surreptitiously, the mantle of leadership was established in the last parsha. The staff of Aaron, which blossomed, and which God instructed be kept in front of the tent of the testimony. It became the staff of leadership and marked the transition from leader to leader, almost like the crook and flail, but perhaps more like a talisman. The history tells us that the wise leader prepares for his successor. We see at the beginning that Eleazar is being prepared to succeed Aaron during the red heifer instructions. These are the necessary steps being taken to transfer the religious leadership. And we saw the political steps taken last week when God told Moses to put the staff of Aaron in front of the testimony for a sign to rebels. And that's an amazing choice of words, and we're going to look at that shortly. The people have come to the wilderness of Zin, and Miriam dies. And that's all that's said of it. 5 words. And friends, we are now 75% of the way through the Torah, so give yourselves a great big pat on the back for coming on this journey with me. I really, really do appreciate it. Now, there is no water. So for a change, the people complain to Aaron and Moses. And this leads to one of the most interesting Torah questions. What did Moses do to be kept out of the promised land? What enormous crime could he possibly have committed? Now everyone will tell you, it is connected to his striking the rock at Meribah. A name and an incident, actually, mentioned twice in 2 different instances. Now, a fairly universal view is that he disobeyed God because he was instructed to speak to the rock, and he chose to strike it instead, and therefore he was disobedient. I've always had a hard time believing God would exact so extreme a punishment for that. I can't help but feel that it has to go towards the nature of the man and not just the crime. As the Moody Blues sang in Nights in White Satin, some try to tell me thoughts they cannot defend. Just what you want to be, you will be in the end. Beauty I'd always missed with these eyes before. Just what the truth is, I can't say anymore. We don't know the truth. We guess and we project it backwards and forwards based on our belief system, and we don't want to believe that Moses was anything but the great prophet that we are told he was. But even the great prophet was human. I suggest to you, friends, the crime was higher than disobedience. The crime was connected to ego. And so much points to this. And so many of the key holy days are designed for us to take a second look at our egos and rein them in. In Numbers 28, God says, take the staff and speak to the rock. Look at the words. He says, take the staff, not your staff. The transition we talked about has begun. Moses was given very specific instructions, and just prior to striking the rock, Moses says, listen, rebels. There's that word, rebels. Shall we bring forth water for you from this rock? Moses' speech made it appear that Moses and Aaron would be bringing forth the water and not God. Did Moses supplant God as the miracle worker by saying we and implying Aaron and him? Perhaps Moses' sin was his presumptuous claim during the time he was to sanctify God in the eyes of the people. Everywhere else, every time the people complained to him, he would say, it was not he but God. And now he asks if he and Aaron should bring forth the water. Moses appropriated an act of God to himself and overstepped the divine limit. And what does God say? He says, because you did not trust in me to make me holy before the eyes of the children of Israel. Moses had stopped emphasizing God and God's power to the people. Now, only one other biblical character had overstepped a similar limit. That was Adam, who also crossed the line into the divine realm. And friends, the only two to do this, Moses and Adam, were both punished with exile. The worst of the curses we saw a few weeks ago in the list of blessings and curses, and the one we still suffer from as a people. Neither was killed. This, my friends, is a watershed moment in human development. For whatever reason, For the first time in the Torah, a human has changed a miracle. This is a tectonic shift, my friends. None of Adam, Noah, Abraham, or Isaac performs any miracles. Jacob manipulated the color of Laban's flocks, and Joseph is given the gift of dream interpretation. Moses and Aaron until now simply perform God's miracles. And then Moses changes one. This is the story of the development of human reliance and control of our own destiny. This was the real gift from God in this parsha. And history shows us what we've done with it. And God calls for Aaron to die because you rebelled against my word at the waters of Meribah. There's that word again. Moses and Aaron did exactly what they were supposed to stop the others from doing. It was Moses who said, "Listen, rebels." And now he hears God say the same to him. Instant karma is going to get you, going to look you right in the face. Friends, our leaders cannot violate the very instructions they are to uphold and teach. Aaron undergoes a private death on top of Mount Hor, with Moses taking the ceremonial garb of Aaron and putting it on Eleazar. The transition of church is complete. And there are no other comments about Aaron, like there were none about Miriam. And then, friends, the strangest thing happens. The people complain again. Now, that's not the strange thing. The strange thing is that God let fiery snakes go among the people, and they bit the people. And a great many people from Israel died. How strange. And God tells Moses to build a fiery snake of bronze, to sit on a pole. And when the people see it, they shall be cured. And there's a few things to note from this. It's a magical item. It's the only sacred object not associated with the tent of meeting. And it's the only item not associated with Aaron at all. It was made by Moses himself. And it was the type of snake like Moses' staff turned into at both the burning bush and in Egypt. And friends, it continued to be on public display after the crisis passed. Did people still come to be healed? They burnt incense to it. It had a name, Nehushtan. And we are told that it was finally destroyed by a later king, King Hezekiah, because it was being honored with incense. A king dared to destroy an object made by Moses himself. And surprisingly enough, a small bronze serpent was found at Timnah near Eilat, where this incident is supposed to have taken place. The things that we do, my friends, the things we say that we wish could be different, that we wish we could do over, this parsha is full of them. It is a message to us all. I wonder if after all this Moses would have sung that great Dylan tune from Nashville Skyline. Once I had mountains in the palm of my hand and rivers that ran through every day. I must have been mad. I never knew what I had until I threw it all away. Friends, have you ever felt you've thrown it all away? It's a terrible thing. It can haunt you forever, but you can go forward. You do go forward. And you don't always realize that you haven't thrown it all away and that you're learning. Don't throw it all away, friends. You really can't. Shabbat Shalom. Have a great week. And please respond to that email if you want to keep receiving these. Have a great time. Thank you very much.